How's it going, traders? It's the Papa Wall Street back with another weekend review. Today we're going to look at my top tech charts going into next week. If you enjoy my content, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel below. These two actions will help more people see my work. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when my videos come out. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video. And lastly, keep in mind, this is not financial advice. I'm doing this for educational purposes only, so let's dig into these charts. As I mentioned, we are looking at our top tech charts. We're on the weekly time frame, and on the weekly time frame, I like to look at the 30-week simple moving average. So taking a look at Apple, and we had a nice bounce off of the 50% retrace at 152.51. We also bounced right at that swing low anchored VWAP, so beautiful confluence right there on a bounce, and we closed over that 30-week simple moving average. We have no squeezes to note. We're holding over 50 on RSI. MACD did cross over, although it looks like momentum is shifting to the downside. So could this just be an oversold bounce? I think we'll know this coming week or maybe within the next 2 weeks. What I would be looking for next week, can we get back over 158? If we do, 160, 162 would be my targets to the upside. And then over 162, 165, 171 would be my targets from there. Next up is AMD. Semiconductors have been acting relatively weak to the market, although we did have a pretty strong close into the end of the week. And we had a weekly squeeze fire off. Although it was a short squeeze setup, right? There was only 3 dots, basically 3 weeks. We did nonetheless fire. It's really undetermined whether the direction is going to be up or down. You don't always get the direction that you think when it comes to a TTM squeeze. There are other things that you need to look at in terms of where the moving averages are and things such as that. But for now, it looks like it's firing up, but I still want to be very cautious here just with the overall market and this oversold bounce that we had. Nice bounce off that 786 retracement at 78.65. Let me just see where our 618. Yeah, so we pushed through the 618 as well. Let's put that 50%. So 88 would be the level I would watch next, and then potentially 90 and then 93. Note that we do have a lot of supply hovering around that 30-week simple moving average. So, maybe the best we can see in the next couple of weeks is a move back up to 97. That would be the area where I'd start to get very cautious. Over 100, I'd become much more bullish. Certainly over 108, 109, I think, the trend has definitely would have changed at that point. But we're still holding under 50 on RSI on the weekly time frame. So just want to be very cautious here. Can we take trades to the upside? Yes, but I think your time horizon needs to be shorter and determine whether this is an oversold bounce or we're just going to continue, to run higher. Time will tell. Next up is Amazon. Very similar story to most of these tech charts. Oversold bounce last week, came off that swing low anchored VWAP. We closed above the 30-week simple moving averages. No squeezes to note, right at 50 on RSI. MACD crossover, but with momentum shifting to the downside. I think, better over 134.51. Could see a move back up to 144.80. Again, that's where our supply is. We're right now in a little bit of a supply volume gap, right? So here's your demand zone down here at 116. Here's your supply zone up here at 142. I think through 134, we can see a move back higher, maybe up to 138, possibly up to 144 in the coming weeks. Here's CrowdStrike. This one, it's actually been acting pretty well relative to the market. And I've been watching it for a while. We were holding this swing low anchored VWAP for a number of weeks now. We continue to come down each week and test it and bounce, and had a pretty strong close. Let me get that out of there. Pretty strong close into the week. Nice close over that 30-week simple moving average. But, again, we've seen a bunch of closes here and a bunch of closes here over that 30-week simple moving average. But lack of momentum to continue higher. I think for me, CrowdStrike, $200 is the number that I'd be watching. You see all this resistance for these 3 weeks here. I think over 200, possibly could see a move back up to 233. You could see we have a 2-dot squeeze setting up with momentum shifting to the upside. We're closing over 50 on RSI. MACD looks fairly neutral at this moment. So, I think maybe a little more consolidation on CrowdStrike. But I think the next time, or maybe 2 times it tests 200, we should at least see a breakout with some momentum to the upside. Whether we get a continuation off of that obviously remains to be seen, but I'm definitely watching 200 here on CrowdStrike. Here's Datadog. This one, I was really hopeful for it, over 115 back in August, and then we just failed and came down with the rest of the market. So I just have a neutral stance right now. We have been holding 93, which has been a level of interest towards the bottom. But yeah, I think until we can get a weekly close over 114 and a continuation, I would still be, a little bit more cautious. We're under that 30-week moving average. We're under the COVID low anchored VWAP. So I like Datadog, squeeze setting up, momentum is riding to the upside. So this is looking good, but we really need to see that big breakout with volume. Here's Google, basing off of 106.30 for a number of weeks now. This one's been a little harder to trade post-split. I think the personality of the stock has definitely changed, so I haven't really been trading it that much. But nice 4-dot squeeze with rising momentum. We're still in this kind of falling, broadening formation. But I think as long as we hold 106.30, I think along here makes sense with a pretty good risk to reward to the downside. Maybe having your stops under 105 or 104. But you have to watch when we come up to that 120 level. You're going to have a declining 30-week moving average, and then you're going to have, a lot of resistance here. Let's just call it 119.33. We have a lot of supply to churn through, but if we can get over 119.33, you've got a volume gap, and then your next supply zone doesn't start till about 130. So this would be the trade that I would be looking for. 119 to 129, or holding over 106 to 119. Here's Meta, still in this massive falling wedge, big declining 30-week moving average. We're under a long-term trend line here. You can see from there, dating back to 2018. So I think we need to break out of this falling wedge to get somewhat bullish. You can see RSI is pretty oversold, although we do see some positive bullish divergence here, right? So RSI making a series of higher highs while price is making a series of lower highs. So that is positive divergence. So I think it's ready. It's close to making that breakout. It might need a few more weeks, but I would be watching 179.68, basically 180 for a trade to the upside. Here's Microsoft, another one that's been bouncing off of this long-term trend line. You can see it dating all the way back to 2016. Look at it ride that trend line. We're back there this year now. And we've bounced off of it once, twice, 3, 4 times already. Let me get that color right there. There we go. And so what I'd be watching here, this 270 level has been a contentious level. Started out as support, then turned resistance. We gapped below it a couple of weeks ago. Now we're bouncing off that trend line. We've got a squeeze setting up. We're still below 50 on RSI. MACD looks somewhat neutral. This is not my favorite setup, of all the setups that are out there. This one just doesn't look appealing to me in terms of a trade. Going long, I think it makes a little sense here. Maybe you could use a stop under 243, targeting back up to the all-time highs. But again, I think there are better, more favorable setups out there. Here's NVIDIA, very much like AMD, has been acting fairly weak. You can see the waterfall it had over the last few weeks. Last week, again, was this an oversold bounce? To me, that's what it looks like. Inside week last week, but at the bottom of the range of that weekly candle. I would just be careful going long here. I think definitely a better short under 133. You could target 122 to the downside. But I think, again, probably one of my least favorite of the tech names that I'm going to be watching in the coming weeks. Here's Shopify. We've talked about this for the last few weeks. Have been waiting patiently for 29.68. We got the back test 2 weeks ago, and then last week, beautiful bounce off of that. So now can we get back to the top of the range, 42.55? This has been a great trade if you've caught this bottom and rode it to the top. Can we ride this again to the top? Let's see. Here's Snow. Snow's been acting pretty nice. 2 weeks inside week right now. So beautiful 3-dot squeeze with rising momentum. We closed through that 30-week moving average. and we're closing on top of with a little bit of a peekaboo candle on this trend line. So yeah, I mean, this one's looking pretty good. I think 167 was a nice area to catch a trade. And now I think, the next big level I'm going to be watching for is going to be $200. I think pretty much just 200 even. That's going to be your round number magnet to the upside. Over 200, I think you could see a move up to 235 a couple of weeks after we break that. Last but not least, Tesla. So again, another one post-split, a little more difficult to trade. It's a little, for me, I'm still trying to get used to the personality of the stock. It's just not acting the same post-split. So, broadening falling formation here, potential 1, 2, 3, 4 setup. Maybe we get that wave 5 back into the top of the broadening formation here. We came close to that 50% retrace at 260.87. No squeezes to note. We're holding over 50 RSI. MACD looks a little neutral here. I think over 300, there's certainly a trade to be had, possibly up to 315, 316, give or take. But I think over 316, I think this sees a bigger move, possibly up to 360. And over 360, move back up to 400 to 415. So those are my favorite tech stocks going into next week. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know in the comments, what's your favorite tech stock that you're watching going into next week? I'd love to hear it. Take care, everybody. Good luck in the markets next week, and we'll talk soon.